3 a.m. Pine Barrens, New Jersey, February 1938. 6 feet of frozen earth pressed down on Ellsworth, Bumpy Johnson. His hands are bound with piano wire. His mouth tastes like copper and dirt. Above him, 4 Genovese soldiers are laughing. They're drinking stolen bourbon. One of them stomps the ground. Twice. Sleep tight, Black King. The sound of shovels hitting car trunks. Engines turning over. Headlights fading into nothing. Then silence. The kind of silence that swallows men whole. Bumpy's breathing slows. Each inhale pulls moisture from frozen soil. Each exhale steals precious oxygen. A coffin without wood. A grave without ceremony. The Italians made one mistake. They assumed a Harlem legend could die like an ordinary man. They assumed wrong. 72 hours later, a trucker spots something on Route 2A6, a figure crawling through morning fog. Fingernails torn to the quick, palms shredded like butcher paper, skin the color of ash, eyes burning with something beyond rage. Bumpy Johnson doesn't speak. He doesn't collapse. He stands, brushes dirt from his shoulders, and starts walking south, toward Harlem, toward vengeance. 3 weeks after that, all 4 soldiers vanish. Their bodies are never found, but their boss receives a package. Inside 4 sets of piano wire, each one soaked in blood, and a handwritten note. I sent them where you sent me, but I came back. This is the story of how Bumpy Johnson turned a grave into a kingdom, how a man buried alive became immortal. To understand why they buried him, you need to understand what Bumpy took. Not money, not territory, respect. In 1938, Harlem was a chessboard. The Italian Mafia controlled the white squares. Bumpy controlled the black. But Charles Lucky Luciano wanted everything. He saw the numbers racket pulling in $40,000 a week. He saw Small's Paradise packed every night. He saw working men betting nickels on slips of paper. Hope folded into squares. Luciano sent emissaries, men in tailored suits who smiled with their mouths but not their eyes. They offered Bumpy a deal, 20% of his operation, protection from the 5 families. Bumpy declined. Politely, he poured them bourbon in crystal glasses, walked them to the door. Harlem takes care of its own, he said, the emissaries reported back. Luciano's face didn't move, but his knuckles went white around his cigar. Then bury him. The man who sold Bumpy out was named Raymond Silk Turner, Bumpy's childhood friend, his most trusted lieutenant. Silk had a daughter, 9 years old. Tuberculosis eating her lungs like rust on iron. The Italians knew this. They always know where the cracks are. They offered Silk $5,000, enough for a sanitarium in the Catskills, enough to save her life. All he had to do was deliver Bumpy to a warehouse in Newark. Silk didn't sleep for 3 days before the meeting. He kissed his daughter's forehead, memorized the weight of her breathing. Then he made the call. Bumpy arrived at midnight, alone, as requested. Silk couldn't look him in the eye. Bumpy noticed. He always noticed. But he walked inside anyway. Some betrayals you see coming. You walk into them with your eyes open, because stopping would mean you don't trust anymore. And a man who doesn't trust is already dead. Bumpy Johnson didn't survive through violence alone. Violence is loud, stupid. Bumpy survived through information. In Harlem, he built an empire of invisible eyes, parking attendants who memorized license plates, shoe-shine boys who heard conversations, janitors who cleaned offices after midnight. He paid them more than their bosses did, not much more, just enough to matter. $1 buys loyalty. $5 buys a family's loyalty. Every Sunday, Bumpy held court at the Red Rooster. Not in the dining room, in the kitchen. Waiters would sit, bellhops, maids from the Teresa Hotel. They'd talk. Bumpy would listen. Italians been asking about the West Side drop points. Someone's been watching your apartment. Black Cadillac, Jersey plates. Silk's been nervous, drinking heavy, won't say why. Bumpy filed it all away, like a scholar indexing ancient texts. At night, he read Shakespeare, Sun Tzu, Marcus Aurelius. He'd underline passages in pencil, margin notes in perfect handwriting. The enemy of my enemy is temporary. Strike when they believe you're already dead. Before the Newark meeting, Bumpy knew it was a trap. Silk's hands shook when they embraced. His cologne smelled different, expensive, new money, guilt money. But Bumpy went anyway. Because traps work both ways. He told 3 people where he'd be, not his soldiers, not his captains, a postal worker, a night shift nurse, a priest who owed him a favor. If he didn't return by dawn, they had instructions: burn specific addresses, empty specific accounts, deliver specific photographs to specific wides. Mutually assured destruction. The only language powerful men understand. When the Genovese soldiers knocked him unconscious, Bumpy's last thought wasn't fear, it was satisfaction. The trap was sprung. Now the clock started ticking. Harlem, in 1938, moved to its own rhythm. Jazz and gunshots, laughter and sirens. Lenox Lounge smelled like whiskey and ambition. A cigarette girl named Claudette could sing Billie Holiday better than Billy. Small's Paradise served chicken and waffles until 4 a.m. The kitchen was a neutral zone. Gangsters and cops ate side by side. Nobody reached for weapons. Not there. 133rd Street was where the numbers runners operated. Men in sharp hats carrying slips of paper like sacred scrolls. For people making $7 a week, the numbers were everything. A nickel bet could win $50, enough for winter coats, medicine, rent for 2 months. The Italian saw gambling. Bumpy saw survival. The Cotton Club glittered for white tourists. They came uptown for Duke Ellington in danger. They wanted to feel alive. But after midnight, when the tourists left, Harlem belonged to itself. That's when the real business happened. In basement speakeasies that smelled like sweat and bourbon, in back rooms where deals were sealed with handshakes and threats, violence in Harlem had its own language. A broken bottle left on a doorstep, a warning. A body found in an alley with pockets turned out, a message, a disappearance with no body at all, a legend. Bumpy understood this language fluently. He spoke it with precision. When he walked through Harlem, children waved. Old women nodded. Shop owners unlocked doors after closing time. He wasn't feared. He was necessary, like winter, like August heat. The Italians could never understand this. They bought loyalty. Bumpy earned it. They ruled through terror. Bumpy ruled through code. And when he vanished that February night, Harlem held its breath, not because they thought he was dead. Death couldn't hold Bumpy Johnson, but because they knew what came next. The silence between heartbeats, the moment before thunder. Harlem waited. In the Pine Barrens, Bumpy opened his eyes to absolute darkness. No sound, no light, just the weight of earth and the taste of his own blood. Most men would panic, scream until their lungs collapsed. Bumpy counted his breaths, slowed his heart rate. Panic burns oxygen, calm preserves it. The piano wire cut into his wrists. He twisted slowly, methodically. Pain is information. He used it. 30 minutes of twisting, the wire loosened. His hands were slick with blood. Good. Blood is lubricant. He freed his hands, felt the space around him. The grave was shallow. Sloppy work. Amateurs bury deep, professionals bury smart. These were neither. Bumpy pressed his palms against frozen earth above him, pushed. Nothing moved. He dug, fingers scraping soil, nails tearing, knuckles splitting against roots and rocks, inch by inch, hour by hour. Time stopped meaning anything. There was only dirt and darkness, and the animal need to surface. His lungs screamed. His vision blurred. He hallucinated his mother's voice. "Ellsworth, baby, you keep digging now." He dug. On the second day, his fingers broke through. Cold air rushed in. He dug faster, wider. On the third day, his head emerged. Dawnlight burned his eyes. He pulled himself out like birth. Collapsed onto frozen ground. A trucker found him, offered a ride. Bumpy declined. He walked 23 miles to the nearest train station. He didn't limp. By the time he reached Harlem, the city already knew. Silk Turner was found in his apartment, sitting in his daughter's room. A single bullet in his temple. The gun was in his hand, but everyone knew. Silk didn't pull that trigger. The $5,000 was still in his pocket, untouched. Bumpy's message was clear. The money couldn't save him, wouldn't save anyone. The 4 Genovese soldiers received visits. One by one, different nights. They vanished like smoke. Their boss, Vito Genovese, received the package. Piano wire and a note. He called a meeting. Every family head attended. "We leave Harlem alone," Genovese said. His voice was flat, final. Nobody argued. Bumpy Johnson had done the impossible. He'd died and come back. In their world that made him something beyond mortal. A ghost with a grudge. A king with a crown of dirt. Bumpy could have started a war. Burned Italian operations from the Bronx to Brooklyn. He didn't. Violence without purpose is chaos. Chaos is weakness. Instead, he sent one more message to Lucky Luciano himself, a bottle of 1924 Hennessy, Luciano's favorite. Inside the bottle, a piece of paper rolled tight. Luciano opened it in his office. His hands trembled. The note said, "I could have poisoned this. I didn't. That's the difference between us." Luciano drank the entire bottle that night, alone. He never moved against Harlem again. Bumpy understood something the Italians never would. Power isn't taking everything. Power is knowing you could and choosing not to. He rebuilt his operation. Stronger, smarter, but he changed the rules. Anyone who betrayed their family for money got one chance. Return the money, face punishment, live, keep the money, disappear. Silk Turner chose wrong. His daughter was moved to the sanitarium anyway. Anonymous donation, paid in full. Bumpy attended her recovery 3 years later, sat in the back of the church. Nobody knew he was there. Mercy and justice, two sides of the same blood-stained coin. In Harlem, the legend grew. The man who couldn't be killed, the king who crawled from hell. Children played a game, bury Bumpy. One kid would lie down, others would pile leaves, then he'd jump up, arms spread wide. "You can't kill a king." Adults would smile, but their eyes carried weight because they knew the truth. Bumpy wasn't immortal. He was just too stubborn to die on someone else's terms. Bumpy Johnson died in 1968. Heart attack at Wells Restaurant. He was eating breakfast. Collapsed with a fork in his hand. No bullets. No betrayal. Just time. But his legend outlived his body, outlived everyone who tried to bury him, because the story isn't about survival, it's about will. The decision to dig when digging seems impossible, to stand when standing seems fatal. So here's the question for you, the one that matters. If you were Silk Turner, what would you choose? Your child's life or your loyalty? There's no right answer, only the answer you can live with, or die with. Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know what you're made of. And if you think Bumpy Johnson's story ends here, you're wrong. Next time, we're talking about the moment Bumpy met Malcolm X. 2 kings, 1 city, 1 conversation that changed everything. Hit subscribe. You won't want to miss it. Because some legends don't fade, they multiply. And Harlem never forgets.